It all began with a sound that didn't have origin. A woman woke up in the middle of Holy Week. They were 3:04 a.m. There was no wind, there was no steps, there were none voices, but the air was different, dense, as if his room would have been sealed by something that did not belong to this world. She felt she was not alone. Turned on the light. Everything seemed in order. But there was a mirror, old one, in front of his bed, one that belonged to his grandmother, deceased toward years. And for some reason, that night, the reflection seemed not to respond with naturalness. I didn't know that this object, so everyday, so sentimental, could be a spiritual portal, according to forgotten warnings of Padre Pio, because what many do not understand is that during Holy Week, the laws invisible of the Spirit are disturbed. The sacred and the profane confront each other more directly. Souls approach the light, but the darkness also, they claim your place. And in the middle of all that, your bedroom, the place where you put down the guard, where you dream, where your spirit expands, becomes in the most vulnerable battlefield. Padre Pio was not just a priest. He was a man marked by the stigmata of Christ, harassed by dark presences, and endowed with a spiritual vision like few others. During confessions and private conversations, he warned, there are things that should not be where the soul rests, because there are objects that not only observe, but also invite. Look at this room with eyes spiritual would change your way of living forever, because there are objects that act as anchors of pain, others that pretend holiness, and some who are true windows to evil. This video is an urgent guide. Here you will discover which are those 3 dangerous objects and why Padre Pio insisted in take them out immediately during Holy Week. You will learn the ritual of the 3 days that purify not only his space, but also the wounds, open doors of your soul. And the most disturbing thing, you'll understand why, if you wake up at 3 in the morning tomorrow, it is not a coincidence, but a warning. Don't take it to the light. This isn't a scary story. It's an ignored spiritual truth. And if you got this far, maybe already you have experienced firsthand. It wasn't just her. For years, hundreds of people have approached priests, monks, and exorcists with the same question. Why do I wake up exhausted if I have slept all night? Or worse, why I feel like someone is watching me the darkness right during Holy Week. And although many ignore, there is a repeating pattern, a silent symptom, a pressure that rests on the soul, a heaviness that is not physical, but spiritual. Padre Pio understood perfectly. In their own accounts, some never officially published, described nights where I couldn't sleep because of the siege of forces invisible. He said, there are nights where the soul becomes a battlefield. It's not insomnia, it's struggle. So have you ever felt that your room changes during certain times, days of the year? Have you noticed that the atmosphere becomes oppressive, as if the air were polluted, even though everything is clean? It occurs especially in Holy Week, when the visible world and the invisibly they touch each other with more force. The prayer is intensified, the sacrifice is remembered, and the spirits, good and bad, are activated because that's where the body rests. And the soul lowers its defenses. It's there where you sleep, dream, cry in silence, where you think in what no one else knows. And if there are objects that bear marks of pain, evil, blasphemy, or simply ignorance, that room ceases to be a refuge and becomes in the spiritual access zone. Many, they believe that the spiritual only manifests itself in churches, temples, or in moments of prayer. But the real fights occur in the intimate. The bedroom isn't just a physical place. It's your personal sanctuary, and everything you allow to dwell there will also dwell with you, even in your dreams. Padre Pio insisted, nothing in the environment is neutral. It either elevates or pollutes. Before you go any further, look at your around. Have you felt that heaviness lately? Do you wake up at same time night after night? Did your rest become disrupted without medical cause? Perhaps, without know it, You are already in the midst of an invisible war. Nobody think in her mirror as a threat. We all use it days. We hung it in the wall with trust. But in the spiritual world, few things are so symbolic and so dangerous. Padre Pio had a clear position on them. On more than one occasion, he advised the faithful who would avoid have mirrors, ancient ones, especially in the bedrooms, if they had not been blessed properly. Why? Because for the soul, the mirror not only reflects it visible, but also what cannot be seen with the naked eye. In many mystical traditions, and also within the thought most esoteric Christian, the mirror, it has been considered a threshold, a surface that duplicates, that projects, that opens. And if it is not consecrated, if it has witnessed pain, death, witchcraft, adultery, or sin, it can become in a passive channel for impure energies. Have you fixed that some mirrors seem to alter the light, or that when you pass in front of one by the night, you feel a slight shudder, even if there is no real cause? It is no coincidence. Especially during Holy Week, when the spiritual world intensifies, mirrors, they can behave like windows that don't close completely. Padre Pio said, in a private letter to a young woman, there are mirrors that have seen more sin than any confessional, and that remains. They, until they are expelled with prayer and blessing. One of the most disturbing cases reported by a priest close to Pius were that of a bedroom where they occurred whispers and repeated nightmares. The cause, a mirror inherited from an aunt who had practiced spiritualism in secret. After remove it and bless it the place with exorcised water, the symptoms, they disappeared completely. But it's not about demonizing every mirror. It's about understanding its charge, history. Do you know where it comes from? Comes the one you have in your room? What are reflected throughout the years? Was it consecrated? Was it ever used in front of sacred images or in practices dark? Padre Pio recommended it following. If the mirror is antique or inherited, it should be sprayed with holy water and a prayer of protection. If it was purchased in esoteric shops, second-hand markets, or without discernment, is better remove it. You should never sleep directly facing a mirror. The soul, upon leaving the body in his dream, you can get trapped in his reflection, according to ancient mystical teachings. In summary, your mirror is not an innocent ornament, it is a presence. And if you don't bless, someone else might use it against you without you noticing. There are things you can't see, but you feel them every time you walk by. A letter hidden in a box, a photograph that still hurts, a gift that no longer has owner, but you refuse to throw away. They are just objects, they will say some, but for the soul, they are knots. Padre Pio knew well. In his most intimate conversations, he spoke of how certain objects can to emotionally and spiritually bind a person, not because of what they are, but because of what they represent. A woman once told him, she confessed, "I can't sleep well since my husband left me. I still have his shirt, his perfume, his letters." Father Pio told her, looked with gravity, and the he replied, "You are sleeping with a wound open to the side. How do you want it to heal? That which you keep out of nostalgia, pain, or denial creates a constant emotional vibration in your environment. And if that vibration is of abandonment, betrayal, loss, or resentment, it will attract what resonates with she. Objects charged with pain not only evoke memories, they act as anchor points for energies that feed off that suffering. And at times like Holy Week, when the soul becomes more receptive and the spiritual plane becomes more active, that burden intensifies. It's like having a wound without cover, walking under the rain. Don't you see he water, but you get soaked. You don't see the energy, but it invades you. What kind of objects are considered knots? Spiritual. Letters from broken relationships that were never healed. Photographs of traumatic moments. Gifts from people who are no longer here, especially if the relationship term with pain. Clothing of the deceased that is still kept out of emotional attachment, not respect. Padre Pio taught that material detachment, when is born from an act of faith, frees not only the heart, but also the environment. He recommended, pray over these objects. Ask the Holy Spirit for discernment to know what to keep and what to discard. Let go. And most importantly, offer the act of letting go as a form of spiritual healing, because as long as you keep an object that bleeds inside, your soul will remain open to the wounds of the past. Not about forgetting, it's about stopping living together. With the pain as if it were part of you decoration, your room should not be a museum of sorrows, but an altar of peace. And for that, you must learn to close doors that no longer lead you to any holy place. Not everything that appears holy is holy, and that is perhaps one of the most uncomfortable truths Padre Pio pointed out. We are used to believing that a crucifix in the wall, a rosary in the nightstand, or a picture of the Virgin Maria on a shelf, it automatically protects us. But what if that symbol has not been blessed? Authentically, what if it comes from a spiritually contaminated place? What if, without know it, has it been manipulated, falsified, or even cursed? Padre Pio was blunt. The devil, he also knows how to disguise himself as light, and many, sometimes, it does hiding behind false or corrupted sacred symbols. There is a disturbing phenomenon reported by modern exorcists. Houses where the demonstrations spiritual do not cease, although are full of crucifixes, Bibles open, and rosaries hanging. And when they investigate, they discover that many of those objects were never blessed or were acquired in esoteric markets, shops of origin dubious, or simply as decorative ornaments, sem fe, sem oração, sem anointing. Worse yet, some religious objects have been consecrated upside down by occultists. They look the same on the outside, but spiritually they emit darkness instead of light. How do you know if a sacred object is truly blessed? Padre Pio recommended, only use objects that have been blessed by a trusted priest. Avoid any symbol purchased in places that combine the religious with the esoteric, and never leave religious objects without prayer. Faith is not in the material, but in the consecration. A rosary that does not has been blessed. It's just a necklace. A crucifix without prayer. It's just wood or metal. And an image of the Virgin without devotion is just an empty figure. But the most dangerous thing is not the absence of blessing. It is the false security that these objects convey. The believer, he sleeps peacefully, believing he is protected, when he, in reality, has left the door open to the enemy disguised as a friend. During Holy Week, this confusion can be even more critical. The spiritual atmosphere intensifies, the shadows seek cracks, and if your spiritual defense is based in unconsecrated symbols, you are vulnerable. Therefore, before trusting what is hanging on your wall, confirms who belongs spiritually, because not everything that hangs from a rosary shines with divine light, and not everything that appears Christian is of Christ. After meeting the three objects that can open doors spiritual in your room, arises the big question, what now? That do with this information, Padre Pio not only warned about the dangers, he also handed over tools, and among them, one of the most powerful was this ritual, a purification of 3 days designed to restore spiritual peace to the place where you sleep. An act, simple yet profound. A declaration of war against everything that does not come from God. Day 1, the removal. What does not bless must go out. The first step does not require incense nor Latin chants. It only requires courage and honesty. You must check every object in your room with one question. Does this build my soul, or does it tie me to something dark, sad, or confusing? Remove mirrors old ones who have not been blessed. Keep or discard letters, photos, or gifts linked to grief or traumas. Separate all religious objects that have not been blessed by a priest. If you have doubts about an object, listen to yourself. Discomfort is a way for the soul to speak. This act can hurt. There are objects that represent memories. But remember, I remember that it prevents your healing. It is not a treasure, it's a chain. Day 2, the purification. Where the water falls, the shadow retreats. With the room clean of dubious objects, it is time to purify the space. Get holy water, preferably exorcised. Dew the corners, the bed frame, the door and windows while reciting the Psalm 91, verse by verse. This psalm was called by many the armor of God and has been used for generations as protection against evil. Can also light a natural incense, such as myrrh or pure frankincense, if you wish, while you maintain the prayer. Do it with devotion. There is no power in the formula. The power is in the faith, active, and the surrendered heart. Day 3, the consecration. This place is yours, Lord. Now that the space is clear, it's time to fill it light. Place a white candle in the center of the room. Turn it on while praying the rosary, with special emphasis in the painful mysteries. At the end, make a prayer of consecration. You can say, for example, Sir Jesus, through intercession of Padre Pio and of Archangel Michael, I consecrate this space to your presence. May all shadows be expelled, and may only your light remain here. Many who having done this ritual have reported that same, more peaceful dreams, a sense of peace, and a new presence, gentle yet powerful. Padre Pio said, where God is invited with humility, the enemy no longer has right to enter. And so, what was a room contaminated by the weight of the invisible becomes in an altar of divine rest. Don't underestimate this ritual. It's not theater. It's real spiritual combat, and you have more power than you imagine. When you exercise with faith, you wake up and look at the clock. 3 a.m. again. There is no noises. There are no lights. But there is something else. A pressure in the chest, a discomfort without cause, a thought dark that appears without to have it called. Has he called you? Past. You are not alone. Thousands of people around you of the world, they report it same. And it is no coincidence. According to ancient exorcists and testimonies collected by contemplative monks, 3 a.m. the moment of greatest demonic spiritual activity. The motive, a blasphemous parody. Christ. He died at 3 in the afternoon. That was the moment of your greater dedication, his victory over the death. And the enemy, in his eternal attempt to desecrate the sacred, takes the opposite hour, 3 a.m., as a space of provocation, attack, and presence. Padre Pio was very clear about it, and he recounted on multiple occasions how he was harassed by demons right in that time slot. He described noises, mocking voices, moving objects, and a cold inexplicable that invaded his cell. Hell doesn't sleep, he said, and sometimes it doesn't let me sleep either. But you shouldn't fear. Waking up at 3 a.m. doesn't mean you're possessed or cursed. It means your soul is in tuning with the spiritual. It can be a cold, an alert, or even an opportunity. If you wake up in that hour, do this. 1. Don't give in to fear. Breathe. Acknowledge the presence of God. 2. Beam the sign of the cross and pray Psalm 91 or an Our Father. 3. Invoke Archangel Michael. Saint Michael the Archangel, defend me in the battle. Be my protection against the perversity and the ambushes of the devil. And if you feel like it's a recurring thing, don't ignore it. Maybe your home or your room is sending a signal. Remember, evil acts in the darkness, but it only takes a spark of faith to turn it back. Padre Pio said, if the enemy bothers you, it's because he fears what you can to get to do with your soul surrendered. So the next time you wake up at 3 a.m., do not see it as a curse. See it as a call to rise up and resist in prayer. If you've come this far, it's because something inside you resonated with this truth. Maybe you remembered objects in your room that always generated discomfort. Perhaps you understood why your rest has been interrupted so many nights. Or you just felt it was time to take the reins of your spiritual space. No matter how you arrived, the important thing is what you're going to do now, because everything you learned in this video, the objects that open doors, the hour of the darkness, the purification ritual, it's not meant to scare you. It's meant to wake you up. Padre Pio had not spoken since the fear, but from love. A love that wanted to see souls free, protected, aware of their spiritual power. And that power is also within you. The room where you sleep should not be a warehouse of broken memories, nor a storehouse of energies that you don't understand. It must be a sanctuary, your private altar, your sacred space. Can you imagine how it would be to enter your room and feel real peace, sleep without fear, to dream with freedom, without oppression, no shadows? That's possible. And it begins with an act to consecrate it. The ritual of the three, the days we share with you, are not just cleansing. It is a spiritual declaration, a seal. Every object you remove is a wound closed. Every prayer is a suit of armor placed. Every blessing is a lamp lit in the darkness. And remember, the spiritual battle is not fought with swords, but with decisions. When you decide to honor your space, bless your objects, let go of what binds you and consecrate your rest, the enemy loses ground. Padre Pio said, "The soul that prays transforms the air it breathes." And you can transform your room in a true spiritual lung. You don't need new walls, you just need faith active and a heart willing. So today I invite you to give that step. Do the ritual. Check your objects. Bless your space. And if this information touched something deep in you, subscribe to this channel for more revelations spiritual like this one. Give it a like if this helped you, and share this video with someone who needs to protect their home. And tell me in the comments, is there anything in your room that you feel you should let go? Because maybe what you wear years searching in silence is waiting to manifest itself right where you sleep.